Walking Subcommittee meeting of 19 May 2022. And before I start the formal part of the meeting, I take it you'll be aware that Mayor Bruce Smith is very sick and currently in Christchurch being cared for by medical staff and family. He's going through a tough time and I wish him well. Thank you.
I can give a little bit of an update. He's picking himself up, so hopefully we see the corner turn to a better Bruce.
Yeah, thank you. So apologies. We have apologies obviously from the Mayor and John Wood. Are there any other apologies? I'd like to move that we receive and accept the apologies. Could I have a second on that, please? Peter, thank you. All those in favour, raise a hand. Thank you. Declarations of interest. The interest register has been circulated via Microsoft Teams. I'd just like to point out it's important that people complete this and also that it's up to the individual to ensure that they complete the register. So thank you for that. I take it there's no urgent items on the agenda. Minutes of the meeting, the minutes of the previous meeting were circulated separately via Microsoft Teams. And I'd like to move that the minutes of this meeting be confirmed at a true current correct record. Could I have a second on that, please?
Just through the chair.
Sorry.
Just probably an admin thing. Susan, do the members that don't have Teams receive a copy, or does everyone have access to Teams?
Yes, so I did email everybody as well. I might need to amend that for next time. Yeah.
So the seconder was Peter. Thank you.
Can I just raise a point? May I quickly raise something before we approve them? Is that possible, Tanga? Please, Mr. Councillor Davidson.
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
I just wanted to raise a point. When we had all the reports from the various members of the committee who are adding their updates, there's a few notes for each of them except for mine, which is a blank, and it was just noted. So I wondered if I can provide some notes to fill that in from my notes that I read from.
Go for it, Inga.
Okay, I just sorry, I got one, and there's too many documents, which Susie would kindly forward all of them to us.
You're breaking up, Inga.
I'm just going to turn the video off.
I was just saying I can't find the minutes out of all these documents that we have. So would you mind giving me a second while I just find those minutes?
Sorry, Inga, you need to talk directly at the speaker because we're cutting in and out.
Right. I couldn't find the minutes, but if you're happy for me to just read some suggested additions under some notes under my report, shall I read those to you?
Go for it.
And I can forward them to Susie afterwards if they're acceptable. So I noted the purpose and roles of the New Zealand Walking Access Commission. Role included making submissions on plans, for example, district plan, regional land transport plan, supporting practical and safe active transport within and between West Coast communities. Second version of guidelines for the management of unformed legal roads due to be published soon, following input from territorial authorities. Inga will be discussing unformed legal roads with Scott Baxendale, including the guidelines, road stopping processes, and the Council's policy regarding occupation. Noted that activities occupying legal roads must not interfere with the public's right to pass and repass. Noted proposals for new tracks at Kumara Junction via the community, improvements to footpath to enable safer access to Canary School, and repairs to the Heritage Trail around the racecourse. Noted and appreciated. So is that okay? As my report, I'll forward this to Susie.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, noted that. I'd like to approve my digital signature is added to the confirmed cycling and walking subcommittee meeting minutes 3 March 2022. The action list will be read out by Scott Baxendale, and thank you, Scott.
Okay, on the first one, Milltown Weir Crossing, I don't really want to add much to what's in the narrative, which is that the site visit is completed, design and evaluation put on hold while exploring alternative route options. Simon Bastian, Chief Executive, may want to pick something up in a confidential aspect a little bit later in regard to that. In terms of items 2 and 3, the historic bridge highway crossing and the exiting onto Highway 6, we have been in dialogue with NZTA, and there is an issue relating to the license to occupy that we're in conversation with them and need to follow up. But that at the moment is what's limiting what we can do with that. Moving on to item 4, trail safety audit. I don't have a further update on that. I don't know, Jackie, whether you or Mel could give us a quick response on that or pick it up under your elements later.
Okay, happy to comment on that. The trail audit work has been done and we're progressing the actions forward from there. Okay,
thank you. On item 5, the Loop Line road diversion, I'm aware that there was a meeting that was scheduled with Tim. I understand it got caught by COVID, but there is likely to be another meeting in the next week. But the proposal is for, in the short term, that part of the trail to run along the highway. And then item 6, which is the major Great Rides funding application, there's actually a report on the agenda about that, and Earl's going to give us an update. And then finally, on walking access update, Inga, you're going to give us an update when it gets to your bit.
I just start through the chair. I think, Inga, that one was to do with you being the conduit for and getting your name out as part of this committee for that piece, for any issues with regards to that. Is that correct?
I think so, yes. I'm not quite sure who it was going to be shared with, but yes, absolutely point people in my direction.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any questions to Scott?
Through the chair, there is a bit of confusion about the alternative route, but I'll sort that out with Vicky. I thought with Vern Morris we were talking about going through Duffers Creek Road, but the last conversation I had with someone suggested going down the power line track, so we just need to confirm what's going to happen there. That parcel of work that we're scheduling to do, I'm not sure whether that will be progress far enough to happen in this coming summer period, and if that is the case, then it will be pushed out 12 months.
Well, good.
May I ask about signage there, and whether a lack of signage contributed to the missing man recently, who was found safely, fortunately? What's this? Is the signage? Was that relevant, and how's it being sorted for the alternative route?
No, through the chair. No, it hasn't been put up yet because we haven't had a meeting with Tim, and we need to confirm exactly where we're going because we targeted going along the road because to construct another trail section in there is quite expensive and it's only for a short period of time. So it may be a slightly long diversion, but yes, when it comes into play, it will be well signposted.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you, Scott. I'd like to move that the updated action list be received. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Tim. Thank you, Tim. All those in favour, raise your hand. Carried. Thank you. Presentations, item 6, there's no presentations. Item 7, staff reports. Simon Bastian, could you speak on this, please?
Yes. So what we're seeking here is a modification of the terms and reference for this committee. Only one minor change. So every year, the directorships for NZ Cycle Trails come up for discussion. And what I'm proposing here is that the role of the chair of this governance group is tasked with the voting rights on behalf of the Wilderness Trail for the NZCT. Just for those that may or may not be aware, I've actually put my hand up, and this is why there's a conflict for this year for being on that membership. So I'll put my hand up as on behalf of the West Coast to be a representative of New Zealand Cycle Trails to make sure we get our best foot forward. And that's been seconded in by Old Coast Road as well. So hopefully I get across the line. Hopefully Tango votes for me.
Anything further on that?
I haven't taken questions on that.
Can I, through the chair, just make a comment? I think it's really important with Simon's role on, if he gets elected on New Zealand Cycle Trails, is actually to be independent, because that's what we really need, and to watch those conflicts of interest with individual trails. So just put that forward.
Thanks, Jackie. Any further questions on that? Thank you. So I'd like to move that the cycling and walking terms of reference variation report from the Chief Executive be received. Could I have a seconder, please? Inga, thank you. All those in favour, raise their hand. Carried. Major Great Rides project. Earl, could you give us a report on that, please?
Certainly. Has everyone seen the report that I put through? Well, the report with pictures, etc., that I put through with Susie? So hopefully you've all got a copy.
Can you bring it up, Susie? Can you share it?
Chair, just before you do that, could we please go back to that recommendation for the terms of reference, because there's 3 recommendations on there. One of them is that the report be received and that the subcommittee adopt the revised terms of reference for the cycling and walking subcommittee, delegating the voting rights for the elections to the New Zealand Cycle Trails to the chair of the committee, and that the revised terms of reference be added to part 3 of the delegations manual, delegations to subcommittees to replace the current terms of reference, please.
1 moment.
We could just say, as per what
I haven't got a copy of that in the run sheet, but as per 10.2, 10.2 to 10.3.
Let's get it moved again.
Yeah, I'd like to move that, and could we get a seconder, please? Inga, thank you, Inga, and thanks for pointing that out, Diane.
Thank you, Chair.
Right, back on to Erwin.
Well, Susie, could you bring up the report, please? Right, so basically, just as an overview of the MGR funding round projects that we've got going at the moment. Well, we're trying to get going. We are having a few issues with supply chains and getting prices and the usual COVID impacts. The first page shows where the Canary Bridges are, the same area, and then it's along the water races. If you scroll down to the next page, bridge number 1 is that one there. And that's the one we're really targeting. It is quite expensive. We have had some initial pricing back at about 130,000+ to do that. But it is the one we need to target because it is the most narrowest, and it's got that bend in the middle. It's not really suitable for cycling. It's reasonable for walking, I suppose. And then we'll just be going down on the scale pictures that you see on the way down, and until we run out of money.
just remind us what the total fund was.
Now, the total fund for that was with joint funding is 254,000. Cool. So that the bridge there, that number one site, it'll have to be helicoptered in, I would think. We've done one of similar size up at Mahaniapua a couple of 3 years ago, but we'll see how we go. Please feel free to ask questions as we proceed through.
Is that one would just about be serviced from the power line track, wouldn't it? That wouldn't be that far away, would it?
It's not that far away, but whether we can actually get, because it's going to come as a single use unit, so it's going to be 20 metre long pieces. So we have done it before where we can just pop it in with a helicopter and it's done quick smart rather than trying to get it in there, actually get it in there. But we'll assess that as we go along.
Right.
Probably just a comment from you, Jackie, in terms of the impacts the current structures have and why we're doing this as a priority.
Yeah, it's a real given priority, this one. That existing structure is difficult for people who are not experienced cyclists, which is the bulk of people that use our trail. It's narrow, the curve is difficult for accessible riding. It's an issue as well too. So this, what I call the 80k bridge, is one of the most important things to fix. Totally support it 100%.
Thank you. Roll, please. If anyone isn't aware, we've done some development up at the end of the Milltown Road, right on the corner just before the bridge. The site has been metalled and prepared. Currently there's toilets up there. The shelter has arrived in town and we're just waiting for a builder to establish up there, pour a concrete pad and erect the structure. The value of this was about 176,000, but that also included some other signage and other ancillary stuff that we're going to be doing at the same time.
Just to highlight, this is required because Cowboy Paradise has decided that they don't want cyclists using their toilets as a primary factor, and also the drop-off for the couple of businesses working out of town. This will be the pick-up and drop-off zone utilising that structure.
So the structure we're actually building is bigger than that one.
Yeah.
Through the chair as well, just to comment on this, it is a key node where an awful lot of people use as a start-finish point when heading through the Kawaka Pass. So there's a lot of use from it. Can I ask if the toilets are operational yet or not?
Yes, they are.
Good. That's great.
Are they the vaulted type that can be lifted out and placed somewhere else?
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty well comes as a kit set term. The only thing that would be left behind would be the pad, obviously.
Through the chair, can I ask that we open some discussions with Chatham Poneman about the Poneman pathway. This is a key site in the Poneman pathway, and which is not just about the hubs and the towns, but it's also about these outlying places, and Underwood Valley is top of the list. Sure. So there's a real opportunity for Poneman pathway to be working with us.
Yeah. We do have an MOU. It's a private landowners. This is not on road reserve. So Russell Copeland is obviously the landowner, and he's agreed for the land to be made available.
Generously, thank you, Russell. Yeah. All right, Russell. Thank you. Scroll down, please. Next item we've got is the investigation of the boardwalks. We're going out there early next week, aren't we, Jackie? Monday?
Correct.
And we're going to do a little bit of a walkthrough and see what we need to do. in that particular area. The next item's Heritage Trail realignment. It's up behind the racecourse. There has been quite a bit of chatter in the community about this particular track, and we know that it's in not the best condition. Luckily, John Strange has taken a bit of a lead here, along with Dave Ritchie in times gone past and myself, and we're going to work on realigning this trail and making sure that it's a bit more conducive to cycles rather than a steep walking track. Any comment, John? Would you like to say anything?
Thanks, thanks, Jill. Liam has been involved as well, and I think Liam's going to talk to that through the mountain bike club comment as well. I went through there last weekend, and it's really nice to see the improvements that have been made from the bottom up, and yeah, nice to think that the improvements that we can hopefully get together with in terms of grade reduction will make that a really neat piece of track. And just one comment, I think, so just to make sure that people are aware that that was originally built as a mountain biking track by mountain bikers in Hokitika. So it's nice that the improvements that have been made are not the addition of steps that would then suddenly become a barrier to cycling, because it's seen by I know by a lot of children as a neat, easy cycle route and an exciting little ride. Thanks.
Through the chair, can I just comment on this as well too? Thrilled to see this happen. With my heritage hat on, we did a whole body of work around the upgrading and the signage on that 7K walk around the town. There are about to be a whole lot of interpretation panels put through that. It will be a key activity for locals, but also for visitors to Hokitika, but also people riding the trail if they want to do that extra loop around too. So this was really one of the pinch points in that walk in terms of the riding accessibility of it. So absolutely stoked to see this happening, and thanks and congratulations to those that have put the time in to amend this.
Yes, we'll be ensuring that we have a MOU/easement in place before we produce any physical works.
I was going to make that comment through the chair. We don't want to be stung again by lack of legal process. So before we even finalise or start any works, both an MOU to start with, but followed by very quickly by a legal easement needs to happen.
So yeah, the step that's about to happen is my meeting with the landowner this weekend coming, and have a chat about what we hope we may be able to do to bring about that outcome, and then sort of just take it quietly forward from there. So the intention is for us to tease out that, whether that person's interested in having some of it on into their land, just where it might help, and then look at options and then put those in front of Earl and talk those through.
Just through the chair, I don't think there's any other option but using the land, is there?
Well, remedy the initial piece that gets you to near their corner, and then there's still options. It'll just be what can you achieve. Right. So it's all about either creating extra length or there's parts of the trail at the top when it rises up. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but we're if you look at the wee 3D image with the green at the top, as it arrives up, you can see it's quite steep as it goes up, and then it sort of slowly curves left and it's flat. That while it's flat there, it could still be climbing around to get to the point where that mouse hand is being held right now. So they are the sort of things, they're the options that still exist and might form part of the preferred option, if you like.
Yeah, really great to see that improvement happening up there, because most of the track is really good. It's a really good grade, and there's only that short, nasty, steep section that really spoils the whole loop of that track. So if you guys can achieve that, it's a credit to you. Well done.
Chair, may I add a comment or a question? Some points. So first of all, there may be the option of some funding towards an easement there from the Walking Access Commission. So perhaps John, you might like to keep in touch with me if that's going to help. Secondly, I just wanted to question the dual use nature of it. I realise that you said, John, that it's created by managed bikers, but clearly it's shared now. So that your plans for future any changes that will take into account both users, presumably. Yep.
It'll be easier for walkers. Yes.
Great. And the
probably a lot safer. One of the things with it was by getting steep and rutted and lots of bouldery stones, it was probably quite a good slip, trip, broken hip sort of thing.
Yeah, that rhymes well, John.
Thanks. So I've put that one together for you, Paul.
Thank you.
All that risk of slip, trip, broken hip above this course terrace subdivision. So from the top of your, I'm not sure if your drawing includes that. Is that where it goes
This
up?
is just the race course hill. And then where are you talking about?
When it goes up to the airport?
Brickfield.
There? No. Before the Brickfield bit, where it goes up to the race course mining road. From the subdivision up.
I know where you mean.
Yeah.
I know where you mean.
There's scope there for improvement.
Yeah.
Anger.
But what they've done elsewhere has been marvellous, and really appreciate that, particularly with the broken culvert and sorting that out. Absolutely superb.
Do you mean the last half of what this track is as it arrives up to the airport, the industrial road?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a
subdivision.
Yeah, right. So that has some kind of roots that are exposed and various things. I did have a chat with Earl about that the other day. That as part of presumably as part of the overall package, those things can be detuned and made safer.
Yes, we can balance out some funding, John. It'll be all good.
Sweet.
Fantastic. And two other little things, or one big and one little. Well, one thing is I raised a gap in the signage for somebody trying to find their way around the Heritage Trail recently through Snap Send Solve, and that was resolved very quickly. So thank you very much, Vicky, and also congratulations, Vicky, for her new role. And my other question is, in our in the Cycling and Walking Subcommittee's role, it talks about defining priority projects with the Cycling and Walking Asset Management Plan. So I'm just curious, through to the Chair, Simon, others, how that prioritisation is working. Clearly, all of these are priorities. I'm keen to see the Pine Tree Road connection as a priority. How do we, and obviously there's the West Coast Road Trail, clearly a priority. How do we work through those? Can we have an input? How does that work?
So through the Chair, the long-term plan for the 3 years is coming up for review. So next year's basically leading into the next 3 years long-term plan. It's at that stage where we revise the current program of work, looking out for 10 to 20 years. That's the opportunity to actually recalibrate and look at the total package of work to make sure that it still makes sense, and also if there's anything new that needs to be addressed or highlighted as areas of opportunity. That will then go in front of councillors for consideration. That will then go out to community for consultation, and then post that will be locked down. Really, the 3 years we'd like to lock down as a program of work. There's always a little bit of flux in there as the annual plans come around, but we definitely want to put a work program together for 3 years from the start of that.
And this committee's role in that process and prioritising?
Vicky will be the channeling point for it, but it'll be we'll be using this stakeholder group as sort of a catalyst for some of the changes.
Thank you.
So we could workshop the current plan that we have, look at priorities, look at rearranging, and look at. You've got to bear in mind we also within the major grade rides funding, we have to make sure we have the ability to leverage all those projects to get the maximum funding. So whilst we have quite a lot of projects in there, some of them can be standalone. There's a standalone business case for funding, but most of them will need a capped amount of funding for each of them. So it's quite a balancing act, but we can take you through that through those workshops.
The area through the chair, the area for the heritage trail sites is really up around airport, through around Brookfield and those areas up there for, that's our first tranche of stuff, but it really depends. We just have to nibble away at it as funding becomes available.
Yeah. I'm quite big on having a sort of, I wouldn't say it's a blank check, but it's around minor modifications where we can actually have a bit of poetic license to highlight a fund that we can get the committee to approve small projects. For example, minor enhancements to walking trails or minor enhancements to infrastructure, where we don't have a specific project at the very start of the year, but as ideas come through, we can actually highlight that as an opportunity to use that fund. We have that now for safety aspects of the trail. We have a set fund that we have for the next 10 years that we can utilise that fund for.
Thank you.
If you scroll down, please, up. And just final item, as I said, Vern's moved on. Vicky's come and taken over this and another couple of small portfolios to grow as a member of council. So congratulations and welcome to Vicky.
Yeah. And she'll be the one making the calls on closing the weirs and stuff.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Not this morning. I did it this morning.
Any further questions on that?
No, really good. Just a comment. Really good to see that funding coming through, and obviously these ticking off these significant safety items. We have quite a few for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Manipur Boardwalks is quite a big investment. Obviously, we've raised that already with MB as our next big piece of work. So getting that application, I suppose, ready for when that fund does become available is quite critical.
Yeah. Yeah, and that bridge out at on the Canary Water Race Walkway, that one with the different angles on it, it is a bugger of a bridge, yeah. And to get that fixed up, replaced, it'll be once again it'll be really fantastic for the complete water race walkway part of it. So thanks for that, Earl. I'd like to move that the report from Earl be received. Could I have a seconder there, please? So, someone raise their hand. Can't see. Can't see.
Stop sharing, please, Susie.
I am
Paul.
Thanks, Peter. The next item is from Inga Perkins. Inga will now give us a report from the Walking Access New Zealand. Thank you, Inga.
New Zealand Walking Access Commission, and we're getting a new name soon. I'll report on that next time, hopefully. Mostly, I just wanted to have a quick chat about the Pine Tree Road connection that I'm keen to see. I think it has heaps of value in many respects. And Dave Ritchie, after the last meeting that Dave Ritchie attended on behalf of the Mountain Bike Club, he looked into it a little bit and shared some notes with Sam Blight, who was working on the funding application at the time for the Heritage Trail, and thought there might be some possibility to connect those two. He also thought it might be a bit more expensive. So I was looking at funds that might be, I don't think that went anywhere, but looking at other funds that might be available, including the Streets for People project from Wakakatahi. I understand that they support councils on projects that like this, but they've already shortlisted and now working with some other councils on this year's Streets for People project, but perhaps we can get in on future years, perhaps. I also had a look at their low-cost, low-risk projects budget, but that seems to be just for state highways. And then the Climate Emergency Response Fund announced on Monday might fit. One of their targets, one of their fund announcements, 350 million for improving access to low-impact transport like walking, cycling, and public transport. So maybe there's ways to find some funding to get that Pine Tree Road connection completed. And also, as you said, Simon, keep it on the plan review processes and maybe a regional land transport plan process.
You're breaking up there, Inga.
Sorry, it's a brand new laptop from Walking Access Commission. I should send it back. Maybe I really need to focus at the screen and speak.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. So there's a variety of funds, and I just want to make sure that the council, in its opportunity, when those opportunities are offered, Streets for People, Climate Emergency Response Fund, whatever it is, that project is in mind. Don't know how to do that. How can we keep it on the radar? How does it fit with the priorities for this subcommittee? But to help that process, I wonder if we can get it planned and costed in the meantime. How do we go about something like that? Is that something that's feasible? And also, just in the notes from the annual plan, the Better Off funding linked to the Three Waters Service, maybe that would fit, because that fits into local wellbeing outcomes associated with climate change, resilience, housing, local place making. So it's perhaps fits in with a fund like that, if that comes through to the council. So just wondered how those kind of things might help. How can we keep that project on the radar, take up those opportunities?
I think through the chair, you raised some very valid points. We do need to be business case ready for projects that we do like to pull out of the drawer and put forward. Obviously, there's a process whereby there will be initial costs to get a project costed. But if we have a ballpark figure and we have a concept design that can be ready and able to go once a funding suite becomes available, I would endorse that. It really comes down to spare time, having a bit of spare time with my team, particularly once we get on top of all the other project work we've got going. Would be happy if there's any volunteers out there that can come up with some concepts to put in front of council, and even some contractor in kind support that would go a long way to making things happen as well. The Three Waters funding, definitely it's a controversial subject, as we know, in terms of take the money, do we mean we support it? The first tranche doesn't really mean that, but it's like taking the poison chalice. But it would be silly to turn down free money as well at the end of the day. But you're right, that could fit into that fund. We haven't thought about it yet. We've got some other projects lined up, potentially that council's not aware of, but all of those things should be considered as part of it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, perhaps I'll pick that back up with Dave, because he went and had a look and had a bit of an idea in his head. Perhaps we can work out how to develop that as a concept plan. And Westland Milk Products said they might be able to contribute a little bit of cash, small amount.
Can I just interrupt there through the chair? I know there was a body of work done, I think we're talking the same place, by Dave Inwood on this, and I know there were landowner issues with it. So I think the very first thing is probably a discussion back with Dave about that as a start point.
Yes, I think the route proposed actually addresses that, from what I remember of discussion with Dave Ritchie. John might be able to answer that, I'm not sure.
So no, I know nothing about it. I'm looking at it on Intramaps right now. It's an interesting wee land shape with a bump in it. It looks like it was allowing for some kind of get some longer grade over that hill when someone laid out the road. But no, I don't know anything about it. I'll have to talk to Dave.
I think that's a core start point. I actually drove that area with Dave in his last days of work with Western District Council. So I think he's a good start point.
Thank you very much. Didn't know about that. That's great. And had looked at it. I've looked at it with Tanker. I've looked at it with Chris Pullen. It's the Western Belt pipeline that goes up there, and Dave's had a look. So they're just, and I've also spoken to the landowners at the top and just to the side, and they're quite positive. Need to work through things with them, but quite positive.
I didn't realise there was a pipeline there, and I'm working with Chris at the moment, so on a few things. So I'll have a chat to him.
Thank you. Yes,
Can I make a recommendation that a formal report comes back to this committee, the next committee meeting? in terms of the scope of the project, the design, and also potentially costings?
I think you need to put forward who's leading it, Simon, as well, because it sounds like several parties are going to branch out and do all sorts of things.
Yeah, I think if we make Inga the project lead, Dave Ritchie's obviously quite instrumental in terms of making it happen as well. But if Inga comes back as a conduit to the project more than anything else.
If you're not careful, the club might have built it.
Excellent, thank you. And just a couple of other little comments. Dave, at the last meeting for the mountain bike club, perhaps Liam will pick this up actually, but he noted that they've made a submission around the Lake Canary ride, talking to a dock and Backcountry Trust, but also the Heritage Loop and a new loop proposed to link into Blue Spur, which sort of connects in with a Pine Tree Road idea as well. So all of these things are part of a bigger picture, and I just wondered how the subcommittee is involved in that, or how we can progress parts of the whole. How does it all fit together? And one last thing. Oh, sorry. Perhaps anybody could answer that first before my one last thing.
Just through this year, I think we just need to refer back to my previous comment regarding the long-term plan and locking down aspirations as a governance group in terms of collectively which is the best way forward.
Great. Okay. Thank you. And the last one was just at the last meeting I talked about obstructed access over unformed legal roads, and I had a catch up with Scott Baxendale. And one of those appears to be resolved. The other two he's been working on, more complex, but shared some discussions and actions on both of those. So hopefully some results by our next meeting. And thank you, Melanie.
Thank you, Inga. Any questions? Any further questions on Inga's report? Thank you. I'd like to move that we receive Inga's report. Could I have a seconder, please? Thanks, Liam. All those in favour, raise their hand. Carried. The next item we have is from the Westland Mountain Bike Club, and it's Liam Anderson, the president of the Westland Mountain Bike Club. Over to you, Liam.
Thank you, Paul. I've just got a brief update of what the club's been up to lately and things we've got planned for the future. Up at the Blue Spur Forest Park, we spend most of our time. We've just finished a track which has kind of probably taken us 3 or 4 years to build, which is an intermediate track which most people will be able to ride, a descending track. See if I can share the picture. See that?
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Yep, so that's a nice, really nice bit of track, which has taken quite a while to finish, but it's probably one of our longest tracks in the forest, called Bath. We've started a new climbing track, which was part of our drive of our club, is to provide more access to our forest. So we've started building a new grade 3 climbing track, which means nearly, most people will be able to get into that track, which it's going to be a dual direction track. Not sure, how can I jump to the next slide? And so we've started building this one at night over the winter. That's what we do at night time. And we've got some kids coming in, getting involved. We've had a massive influx of young people using the forest this summer. They've been building their own tracks and kind of going riding without their parents, which is really exciting to see. This is part of the finished track. And a really exciting thing about this track is it's going to, we don't have any pictures of it, go adjacent to some old water races that traverse the side of the hill in the forest, and they're amazing. They're covered in glowworms and things like that. So I think it's going to be a real asset to Hokitika, this track that we're building. Dave talked about we're going to get a new looking at getting a leaf blower for maintaining our tracks to keep all the leaves off because they hold a lot of water, and we did get a leaf blower, and it's amazing. It's kind of reduced our workload massively, and it works really well. Second, I'll talk a little bit about the Heritage Trail. Again, you know, the club would like to acknowledge that the work the council has already done is really great, and a lot of the members have mentioned it. One thing that the club has talked about in the past would be linking that bit of track through to the back of Hokitika Primary, because I think it will help a lot of the kids access school and things like that. So that would be, I think, a good part to think about and perhaps add to the wish list. A few of the members have raised concerns about the barriers at the ends of each section of the Heritage Trail. They're kind of narrow and dangerous for mountain biking. They impinge wheelchairs and pushchairs with families taking their young children. And I don't think they're very effective at keeping motorbikes out. So we would like to talk about better ways of protecting those ends of the trail. And yep, the Mountain Bike Club wrote a letter to support Sam Blight's application for extra funding. And they approached us and said we support them, and we wrote a letter supporting that. So hopefully that helps get some more funding for improving the Heritage Trail, which is a great asset for Hokitika. That's about all I've got. If anyone's got any questions.
Through the chair, just quickly, there used to be a track down from the trail around the back of the race course that connected to the school, I think. I'm sure I remember walking through the school grounds years ago.
I think there was an old track from Alpine View down that way, but it's all very overgrown back there.
Very great to see that and have that sort of access to the school. That'd be lovely. Great idea.
Yeah. I've walked through there. It's a beautiful forest in there.
Just a comment too on the endpoints and the barriers. I received feedback in the last couple of weeks that there needs to be some consideration of that at some specific sites. The main one, and it was more about probably looking at more of a way of slowing people down when they come out of those, and I don't think necessarily putting more barriers in place, but looking at the sort of the give way approach to it, coming down onto Airport Drive, I need to look at the exact area, but that was the area that was of concern that was raised with me. So I think it would be good to just, you know, have an eye over that entire track from a health and safety perspective.
Yeah, and I think there's probably ways that we can slow down or social measures we can use for encouraging people to look out for each other more than kind of big barriers.
Yeah, Liam, it's really good to see the volunteer group working on those tracks. You guys do a fantastic job, and you know, once again, it's a credit to the community and also the region what you guys are doing. So good work.
Thank you.
Any further questions to Liam?
Yeah, Liam, just from myself, we need to let you know that your letter was in vain, unfortunately, because the application never was submitted. The deadline was missed, so apologies for that.
Oh well.
Next time, hopefully. And one other thing that I would like to raise, and it's probably for the whole committee, with such a fantastic work that the Mountain Club is doing, creating Hokitika to be a venue for all cycling and creating it as a mecca for cycling would be fantastic, particularly with the projects that are in the pipeline as well. You know, I've raised this with MB as a possible marketing campaign to bring people here around all sorts of different cycling portfolios, but we need to get events signalled around some of these. The Wilderness Trail is starting to attract some great events. Is there events planned for Blue Spur in any way for, I suppose, an extreme cycle or racing or at all?
Funny you should say that. Oh, am I muted? No, I'm not muted. So, the Mountain Bike Club has just recently been approached, and I should have talked about this, by Mountain Biking New Zealand about the potential of hosting some national races here.
Oh, great.
We've only just received these, and I haven't even talked to Mountain Bike Club members about it because it's quite a lot of work to do that. And most of us just like to dig trail, so. But yeah, we'll look into that, and then perhaps we'll talk to council about some options of how that could work. Because yeah, we have the trails right now that can host those events.
Definitely, there's that at a national level, it creates opportunities for funding, particularly at a development West Coast, for regional event approach. But that's exactly where we'll raise our profile nationally if we can get some significant events here around the cycling aspect of it.
Can I maybe contribute something there, just with half of a mountain bike club hat on and half of a Hokitika cycling club, being the road cycling club? We've just recently successfully hosted the Cycling NZ age group nationals with 500 riders plus probably 1,000 supporters. And the image behind me today is two of the hand cyclists who raced as part of the paracycling group that were here. There were tandems plus these two. And the feedback was phenomenal in terms of the welcoming approach and support from Hokitika, whether it was businesses or others, the accommodation providers and the club members themselves. We got a special card from the paracycling group to say they were blown away with the support and welcoming put out to them. The woman on the left with the pink on the back there, she'd ridden the Wilderness Trail. So prior to her taking off here, I chatted and she said it was stunning and it was a highlight. And it was nice to be able to tell her that the Wilderness Trail and the council had a real commitment to improving accessibility. And yeah, the two of them were excited to hear those sort of stories. So, you know, we I guess collectively with slightly different hats, putting out there the message that this is an epicenter of cycling and that's supported when you're here.
Yeah, great to hear that, John. And considering it was a fairly bad day in terms of weather, you know.
Oh, so, it was 3 days, yeah. And it was pretty stunning. And it meant that there was some of the worst weather was saved for the under-19 men, which is a New Zealand jersey. So there was 2 jerseys handed out, and the conditions made for tough racing prior to a number of them heading overseas for semi-professional, the next step. And world champs of various types, including our local paracycling New Zealand representative who rides with the club and works for Dave Ritchie. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting times.
Yeah, good news, John. Any further questions to Liam? Thanks, Liam. I'd like to move that we receive the report from Liam. Could I have a seconder, please? Owen, thank you. All those in favour, raise their hands. Carried. And it's raining.
7 metre waves coming.
The next report is from Jackie Gurdon, West Coast Wilderness Trail Manager. Over to you, Jackie.
Right, thank you. I'll just recap on a few of the projects. I've already mentioned some of them. Obviously, thinking about the 10th anniversary of the trail coming up, but just jotting down the things that we're working on. So Earl at Westland and Denise and Aaron and his team at Grey are shortly putting in the New Zealand Cycle Trails big panel. It'll be arriving, I think, within the next month or so. That highlights, it goes at either starts of our trail. and highlights all the New Zealand Great Rides within it. So there's going to be quite a large interpretation or information panel going in at each end. Mahanapua Loop project, so working with WSP, DOC Council and some of our trust members on that. Got the initial concept designs and got feedback on those. So they'll be, WSP is going to frame those up based on that feedback. I understand obviously we'll need engineering input and reports into that, and also geotech work, and probably include that on our start of the week when we're out at Mahanapua, just looking at that. Our trust has also made a successful application to the Blackadder Trust for almost $5,000 to contribute towards the funds for that. And we're looking at trying to get sponsorship of some of the construction of that as well too. So that project is moving along. Boardwalks, as Earl has indicated, we're meeting there at the start of the week to kick that project off. I'm also working with Tony on the upgrade. There's $50,000 sitting there to upgrade the Mahanapua boardwalk. Sorry, not boardwalk, the Mahanapua track. We're specifically looking at the accessibility aspect of that and disabled riding along that. So we'll be and working with
Jackie, just one moment. Can I just pause you for a minute and get Mel to do her report, because she's I think she's got to catch a plane.
Okay.
Thank you. Over to you, Jack. Over to you, Mel.
If you can get in, Mel.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you. Just Paul. So you've got my PowerPoint there. Suze, are you able to do that for me? Because I can't see the transition on my end. I can only see. There we go. Thank you. If you can just put it into view for me. Beautiful. Thank you. And this is a pretty quick overview, and thank you everyone for your ability to move things around. I'm not always flitting in between meetings and jumping on planes. It's actually quite rare, so thank you. Kia ora koutou, just a quick update in a nice picturesque form of some of the things that have been happening on the trail lately. Next slide, please. There, Suze. See, yep. We've actually had quite a, oh, that's last month's one. That's last month's presentation.
That's great. I'll see if I can find it.
I can share my screen if that's going to be easy. Is that going to be easier?
I think it'll be quicker. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Bear with me. I'm technologically behind the ball today. View slideshow. That's what you want. No, it's not. There we go. That's what we want there. Can you see that nicely? And let me. Can you see my? It's a note form at the moment, but if I go into that form and slideshow. There we go. How's that, team?
All good.
Now I can't see my notes, so that'll be fun. We have recently installed and got up and ready the facilities down Milltown there, and I believe that they are all operational. So that's an added convenience for people. Vandalism is an ongoing issue along the trail. Between fixing graffiti where people on the Hoki Bridge and the bollards where quad bikes, even though we've got signs that say no quad bikes, vandalism, I'm not sure what you can do about that. It's a sign of the times, but it does take away the resource and puts into areas that we don't really want to be doing.
Is that Kamara that?
No, that is that? No, that's Pine Tree Road, Canary, I believe.
Yeah.
Section 8. Yeah. That was the quad bike. The police got involved with that one. Yeah. Yeah. Few new culverts and drains. A lot of this work has been, so there's Huranui Jacks there. A lot of this work's about making sure that any culverts and drains that we are putting in, or the additional ones, are actually quite a bit wider. So that's about future proofing and minimising some of the works that have to be done later. So keeping the water off the trail as much as possible and reduce the amount of scouring from water events where we can. Health and safety is interesting listening. I think, Liam, you were mentioning about gates and trying to stop bikes and things. We have recently put in a bollard there on one of the bridges for exactly that, you know, quad bikes to stop there, and a bit of a quick fix on one of the dock bridges there at on the waterway to enable in the safety space, especially for assisted riders. As you can see, that the new wood there and signage as always. Resurfacing. A couple of sections there. The new Canary area, Huranui Jacks, which is the one on the left, I think, because I can't see my notes. Sorry, I'm just moving you away so I can see the other pictures. Terramacau section, as you probably aware, that's been a big project, major works, slumping fix, which has been an ongoing issue in that space, and multiple works requested to fix things. We're 95% completed on that. However, we've retained 25% of the fee from the contractor because we're not happy with it, and they've still got to finish it off till we sign it off and finish that section. And upcoming, we've got the Kamara to Swingbridge section, so that'll be similar sort of situation. It's got slumping in there. Last time it was done was about 4 to 5 years ago, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone who remembers. And that's that. That'll be next week, and that's all just about preventative measures as well. Last weekend, as you will be aware, we had the Destination Westland South Island Ultra Marathon along the whole stretch of the Wilderness Trail, whole 100 Ks, and that's our very own Vicky Whittington, our Glacier Heliport manager, who represented us and did the 24K. Next year, we're looking for anyone who wants to represent us and do the 100K. But one of the great things about being involved with that is, you know, it's putting something back in where we do some work, but we get the immediate feedback from that weekend, which was actually full of rain. And some of the, like a lot of the reports that came back to us, because I was quite concerned about it from a safety perspective in the weirs. But talking to the team there, they said, those that came through it, that there was no issue with the level of the water through the weirs during that event. So that was of interest, especially given, you know, what a hindrance it would have been for the whole of that event to reroute and put it on the high water diversion. So apologies for the quickness of that. That's me looking at the photos and no notes. But any questions?
I haven't got a question, Mel. I just like to thank Richard and your team for the paintwork they did over that nasty wording along the trail, particularly at short notice, you know, and before that South Island Marathon event. So well done, you guys.
Oh, look, and with that, you'll notice I've only put the after photo on for those that who actually saw the original. So
Nice.
it's just one of those things, and we try to respond as quickly as possible to events as they happen.
Yeah, well done.
Part of Vicky's job description is to do a 100k marathon.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Simon. We will happily take that.
Yeah, well, Paul and I used to run those marathons.
Ultra.
Just a comment. Richard is doing a fantastic job. Really appreciative of the work he's doing, and also extremely quickly as well too. So there's a couple of things that I'll mention now. Firstly, the work at Loop Line Road was done, quite a body of work really, really quickly to help with the this particular event, but also to help with Bernard, the disabled rider, doing it in his chair. So, and the same with that bridge that was fixed at Mahinapua. So, sorry, not Mahinapua, at Lake Canary Water Race. So, it's really stoked with that. The feedback that I also got from him that I hadn't even thought about was the weirs. And I guess we don't think about when you're in a chair going through the weirs, and the water level was quite high for them there. And I think that's where he got his flat tyre. He's not completely sure. But I guess it's just us kind of thinking about accessible riding when we do have people in chairs on the different parts of the trail. It's another dynamic of thinking. So, yeah, I guess we're starting that journey together, and do need to be aware of the weirs and people in chairs. So, yeah.
Thanks, Jackie. Any further questions for Mel? Yes, Paul.
Through the chair. So Mel, the toilets are great in Milltown, but I'm just wondering about the arrangements for cleaning and servicing of them.
It's through council.
It's through destination work for us, for council.
Yes. So what exactly?
Periodic emptying, that's all it requires, and cleaning. I'm not sure the frequency.
Depends on the usage.
Yeah.
There's a set there. There's a set going in at Bruno Jacks, and another set up at the Chermakau area.
So is this a
contract
extra cost in the contract?
Yes.
So to what extent?
$25 a time.
Yeah, sorry.
$25 a time when they get empty. So depending on usage.
There's a significant gap between Mara and Canary.
Yeah.
So we've so this is they're not the Portaloo, so they can be picked up and removed. But that's the quickest and easiest solution without investing a lot of money to resolve it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that, it's the fact that they are portaloos and they have to be serviced. So I'm just wondering how that was being arranged.
I think it comes back to the whole scenario about we're not allowed to charge for the trail. If we had some funding coming in to subsidise the council costs that come across this, is the big ticket item that we all haven't solved yet.
I'm sorry, I've just got a boarding notification. Huge apologies, I've got to fly.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Mel. And for the report, can I just get a seconder? Thank you, Liam. And all those in favour, raise their hands. Carried. Thank you, Mel. Cheers. Noted with that, Paul. You okay with that? The response?
Yeah, I just wasn't clear as to what the arrangement was and how much it was going to cost.
Okay.
And so, obviously, there's more when this photo were put in, the cost is going to.
Yes, we're fully aware of that. We're utilising the existing budget as much as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Back over to you, Jackie, and thank you for that being sort of shoved around there a bit.
No trouble at all. Yeah, so I've covered off the Mahinapua, the 3 projects we've got there. starting to look at the work on Ross Strait and potential lookout down there, and also the wagons is uncovering those wagons or doing something with those wagons at the end of it. We really need to get something that does put an attraction down there to pull people right down through that. My comments in working with Richard, work together to try and solve that issue with people crossing the road and heading out on the wrong side of the road out to Lake Canary. You'll see the sign in there that we are giving that a go to see how it works. I talked about we're working on the accessible ride guide, the comments that I made, Loop Line Road, and the work done on the Canary boardwalk already. It's fantastic to see all that happen. So moving ahead there, we're upgrading our website, looking at an interactive map to go into that, along with some introductory video as well too. Starting to work with Grey District Council and the enhancements of their part of the trail that came out of the audit. One of the things I do want to highlight is the incident reporting. I'm not sure that the incident reporting is coming in as you'd like it, Simon and Earl and Vicky. I have sent out probably 5 emails, included it to the official partners who are our trail partners, our trail companies, and included it in our newsletters to try and get coverage of that issue and try and get people reporting it into us for that. I'm not convinced that it is happening. We need the people that are operating commercially on the trail to report everything through to us, because it just helps us put forward the case for enhancing the areas of the trail where incidents are happening. And we've got to try and generate as many of the FIT incidents that happen with reporting of that actually coming through to us as well. So I can email out again to people to do that, but I just don't, I don't know. It may be, Simon, that you lead independent emails or letters through to them to highlight the need for this to happen and those reports to come through, because it just helps everybody if they do. I mean, whether or not they're concerned about having incident reports, registered with them, I have no idea. I would hope not, but I think we need to just really point that out, perhaps above an email that goes out to them. Comment, we're looking to it at shelter artwork as well too, a project on that coming up. So a lot in the pipeline with what we're doing with the trust. That's all I wanted to report.
Any questions for Jackie? Okay, I'd like to move that we receive Jackie's report. Could I have a seconder, please? Tim, thank you. All those in favour, raise your hands. Carried. Just another report is Owen and Tony, have you got anything to report from the Department of Conservation?
Yes, we do. The range just made it rather noisy in my office, so I hope you can hear me all right.
Yep, good as gold.
Picking up first on Jackie's point around the Mahinapua track, so confirming that we've been able to transfer that 50,000 that was going to go to the boardwalks to upgrading the minor structures in the track there. And yeah, Tony will meet with Jackie on site next week. Just touching on accidents, and you will recall probably that there has been an accident recently on those boardwalks, and so we probably need to improve the signage there. We have got some pretty small signage advising people to dismount when passing, but if Tony and Jackie can connect on that and see who's going to do the signage. We've got a bid into our historic fund to get some money to do an inspection on the Mahinapua rail bridge. That's now due, and it's a fairly expensive item. So we're waiting to hear back on that one. The Canary number 15 bridge, this is one at Wards Road and the one that causes a bit of confusion and people sometimes go the wrong way. We'll be relocating that shortly, so that should reduce that confusion. And just coming to the bid, council's got upgrade a number of those bridges. I think it was Canary number 1, the Wiggly one. I believe that we are also seeking funding to update that. So we better have a check-in to make sure that we're not both doing the same thing there. Other...
Just repurpose it, Owen.
Sorry? Repurpose.
Oh, we need to make sure you're right.
Something that is coming up is a partial review of all CMSs nationally, so conservation management strategies, specifically with the aim at looking at how cycling is addressed. So previously, really to be able to do anything in the cycling space on PCL, we were waiting a full review of the West Coast CMS, but this should hopefully address cycling more quickly, which may open up the opportunity to explore that reroute on the Aroha and North Bank. No guarantees or preempting outcomes, but I mean, it could be timely to start looking at that project a little more. In the backcountry space, we're just working at the moment with Permalat and the Backcountry Trust on what their annual work program is. So they're volunteer groups that do a lot of work on our backcountry huts and structures, and there'll be quite a bit coming up in that space. And lastly, and I guess somewhat related to this meeting, the wharf at Mahinapua, we're in the process at the moment of engaging an engineer to design a replacement there, which we hope to have built by next summer, but at the very least to have sorted out before the major regatta that the yacht club are running there. That's our update. And anything else, Tony, you want to add?
No, we've covered it all.
Thank you, guys. Any questions from anyone to Owen or Tony? Thanks. I'd like to just move that we receive the report from Owen and Tony from the Department of Conservation. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Peter. Seconded by Peter. All those in favour, raise their hands. It's carried. And I think that might be it. So we'd like to sort of move out of the public excluded section now, but don't leave us. I think Diane's going to just sort that out. Is that right, Diane?
Chair, if you could just get a mover and a seconder to move into public excluded, and then I'll stop the recording.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'll move it. Could I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Peter. All, raise your hands. In favour? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just stop the recording now.